Hello and welcome back to another Team News live stream ahead of another deadline after the last game week has only just finished. The game week 35 plus deadline is of course tomorrow. So I'm joined as always by Neale to discuss all the team news. How you doing?
Good, Andy. Yeah, very busy today. We've got, I think, 14 or 15 press conferences to sift through, plus two or three from yesterday as well. So for once, I think we've got a full complement, or near enough a full complement of press conferences, which we haven't always had when the deadlines have been coming thick and fast.
You know what I'm predicting to happen? We've got all this info. We're going to not get told something, which we're going to
Yeah.
get punished by tomorrow. But anyway, we'll go through what we have so far. Let's start off with Man United. Started the same team again in the last game last night against Aston Villa. Are you predicting the same thing again?
Yes, I mean, we haven't heard from Solskjaer since last night. He's one of the two or three who won't give like an official press conference. There could be some stuff leaked out post embargo from yesterday's press conference, or we might actually have heard about a press conference that's happening. It might have just been hastily arranged, but we haven't heard about anything. I did see Pogba go down late in the game, but I think he's all right. I think he was giving an interview after the match and he seemed okay. But yeah, I think echoing what I said earlier in the week with you, Andy, that the turnaround for Man United is quite generous. So they're not playing till Monday night, I believe.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's a four day turnaround for them. Whereas some clubs are getting less than 72 hours. So it's been unchanged 4 games in a row. There might come a point where he has to change it. I mean, they're in FA Cup action in between game weeks 36 and 37. So it just depends, I guess, where they are in terms of the Champions League qualification. If it's looking like a shoe in, then rotation might happen after that. But I suppose so long as that's on the line, then you'd expect him to put his full strength team out, which probably now includes Mason Greenwood because interviewed after the match last night, he said he can't drop someone who's still scoring goals. So by which he means Greenwood, of course. He was told about him. So another great performance from him last night, and yeah, as I say, he's established himself now as the go-to right-wing option, really, having been a support act for much of the season behind Daniel James. So yeah, his price is going to go up and up and up by the looks of it.
Yeah, 4.7. That's surely got to climb above the big 5 million soon. Not that it's going to price anyone out of getting for him, but yeah, he's been really good, and I really like him as an option because he keeps coming inside as well. He doesn't really stick to the wing at all. So yeah, really good option. I'm the same, expecting the same team again. We'll see what happens. What about Liverpool? Pretty big injury news from them. Do you think that's going to affect them as a team?
Yeah, it might do because it's Henderson who's out for the season. Good news in a sense that he doesn't need surgery, so he'll be back for the following campaign, but he won't play any part in the remainder of this one. So yeah, I mean, he has missed the odd game throughout the season, but I think we saw during Liverpool's iffy spell just before lockdown, he was missing for a few games. He missed the Watford match, which of course Liverpool went and lost. But the 3 games he missed, games 27 to 29, West Ham, Watford, and Bournemouth. Three relegation strugglers. Liverpool conceded 6 goals in those 3 games. So I think he is missed slightly from a defensive perspective in terms of going forward as well. He drives their attacks. We saw against Aston Villa when he wasn't starting that I think his influence was missed a bit, and he was brought on the hour mark, and he did give them that bit of extra drive. So yeah, I think it will have an effect on Liverpool, not to the extent where you'd avoid Salah or Mane this weekend or anything, but it might have a more of an impact. For example, in the following games when Liverpool's playing Arsenal and Chelsea, so two heavyweight clashes. So yeah, it could be significant. And Lovren is the other name to mention from Klopp's press conference. He's back in training, so it could come into contention. Another option at centre half, of course, if we're looking at possible rotation.
Here's the big question, which you probably knew I was going to ask you. Salah, is he in the predicted lineup this week, or do you think you might leave him out?
I haven't done it yet, so I'm
Ah,
going to
come on.
wait till later in the.
What's your
Uh,
thinking right now? Obviously, you've probably still got more stuff to think about, but like right now, do you think there's a chance? And there has to be a chance, right?
yeah, there's a definite chance. There's a definite chance because we've seen this it hasn't been wholesale changes from week to week. There's been a drip feed of rotation. So Firmino's had his rest. And it was Mane in the midweek. We've seen Henderson, Wijnaldum rested as well. Robertson got a rest in midweek. So it might be coming. But obviously, the one thing in his favour is that he's going for the golden boot. Now, how much attention Klopp plays to that? I mean, would he want to hack Salah off by benching him when he's still in with a chance? He was asked about it today, about whether Salah's teammates will be thinking about helping him to score, and he says he hopes not, because he thinks it's so in the middle of a match. Those are split-second decisions that you have to make, and you can't really be going into games where you're thinking about helping someone else score. So he tried to downplay that as best he could, and talked up Mane's very, very slim chances of winning the Golden Boot as well. He's some way off now. So I do think it's a possibility. This would be the game you'd think in which it could happen, because Arsenal and Chelsea, you'd think it would be two of the strongest teams available. There's a gap of a week between the two as well, because they're not in the FA Cup. And then Gameweek 38, you would assume that he'd put out, a near enough a full strength team, because it's the final match of the season. A bit of a send off, because Liverpool's not in European action beyond that. So, yeah, I think if it is going to come, it might be this weekend. But would you bench someone who's just played a hand in 3 goals in midweek? I suppose that's Klopp's decision to make.
Yeah, it's a tough one. If I was Mane, I'd be annoyed, because I was only 1 behind Salah before that game. Now I'm 3.
Yeah.
Like, if I was Mane, I'd be extremely annoyed. So obviously he's not going to get benched. But yeah, it'd be an interesting one with Salah. I think it's a big call. I think it's actually a pretty easy call if you've got him. You just keep him now. But if you don't have him, it's a much bigger decision, which I might ask you later on. Let's stick with the press conferences and injuries for now. So Leicester, not looking quite good for them either. Obviously, Jamie Vardy is a big kind of bandwagon this week. Is there any issues there at all?
Well, not directly with Vardy, but in terms of the supply line, I guess there is. Chilwell and Maddison are, I think, in Rodgers' words, more likely than not to miss out here against Bournemouth. So they're going to be assessed before Sheffield United. I don't think it's quite enough for a red flag, but they'll be 25%, I think I've seen in FPL. So, yeah, those two were out, but then they were out anyway in midweek. So Leicester proved they can score goals without those two. Although they did struggle slightly against Arsenal until Nketiah was sent off. So yeah, as well as Pereira, it's those two who are out. We've seen Leicester move to a wing-back system recently, so Vardy's looked a bit better with some support around him from Iheanacho and Perez. And I was intent on getting Vardy for this until I saw Bournemouth last night. How much of that was down to Spurs just being abject? I think it's probably that. But they looked a little bit more solid at the back. So it might not be the pace that many of us were expecting. But you still expect Leicester to go there and get a result. I think they're a lot better than Spurs are. And they've got more a manager with a bit more attacking mindset as well behind them. So
if you were thinking of getting Vardy, just because you brought it up, I was going to ask you, who would you be getting rid of to do that move? Because lots of people thinking about it this week.
It would have been Jimenez, but I had to have made a move last night because Vardy's risen, and I decided against it. So that might come back to bite me on the backside. But I think Jimenez, he's basically out of time now. I think this might be his last week if he gets that at all. And then he's off for probably Danny Ings. I think it's just for the fact that Vardy's got this one game and then he's got some trickier games after that. I don't know whether it was worth a punt. And we're talking about hits and stuff like that, where I'm already sort of treading water and losing my place in the top 10k. So, I'm probably not going to go there, but I'll see what happens with the rest of the press conferences this afternoon and make a decision later in the day. If I do get rid of him now, it's probably going to be for a hit. Sorry, if I do go for him now, that's probably going to be for a hit. Or sell Rashford, which I don't think I'll be doing before Southampton at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be selling Rashford either. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I can get him for free. But it's then I probably will want to get rid of him straight away for Danny Ings. So I just don't know if it's worth that, especially if I'm not going to captain him, and I don't know if I would. The Bournemouth game's interesting because Spurs were so bad. Did you watch that game? Did you have to watch it?
I was on duty for this. Yeah, it was poor, wasn't it? I mean, I think that's
One of the
also one of the
worst
reasons
games.
why. Yeah, yeah. Did you see the stat? It was doing the rounds. Bournemouth had conceded a shot on target in every Premier League game since they came up, and this was the first one where they hadn't. So yeah, I mean that's an indictment right there about Mourinho and Spurs. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I kind of moved away from selling Jimenez for Vardy, because I might want to get rid of Son now. I think I've had my fill of Spurs. The one thing he's got in his corner is that he's probably going to start Son against Arsenal. But apart from that, I mean, it was just so bad. And bearing in mind, Bournemouth had the worst and still do have the worst defensive record since the restart. And Spurs didn't even manage a shot on target.
Yeah, it was pathetic, to be honest. Keep that thought though about transfers, because I've even got your team lined up to put on the screen later on, just for a
Oh,
quick
damn it.
question. Yeah, quick question at the end. Don't worry, nothing major. Man City, the big one every single week. Who's going to start? Any like for me, that before I just give you that blanket question, which is impossible to answer. Like Jesus potentially this week because he started again. And I guess the thinking is that Sterling's definitely going to start, given that he had a rest, right?
Yeah, I think Sterling, as much as you could be sure about anybody, you think Sterling is going to start. Not only had he have a rest in midweek, he got taken off after, was it 58 minutes against Southampton as well? So he is well rested ahead of this game, and he'd be my move if I was going for another Man City asset. As for the rest, I'll have to watch Pep's presser in full. I haven't seen it yet. I've just seen the standout quotes from it. Um, yeah, he was praising Mahrez, and Bernardo Silva, but then, as I said about Jesus, he's going to praise these players if he's get asked about any of them in his press conference. He doesn't just bring these players up uh, at his own behest. You know, he's asked about them. Of course, he's going to give positive quotes about them. Doesn't mean one way or the other that they're going to start. But yeah, I'll watch it through later on. He was talking about wanting to keep these players in good condition for the FA Cup semi-final and then the Champions League beyond that. But also said that they have to have some momentum behind them. They have to be, match sharp, match ready, in good form. So that was no use, was it? He's basically contradicting himself in one sentence. So it'll be the usual this weekend. It'll be rotation in 3 or 4 spots, probably at least. And then we'll just be guessing based on minutes and starts in the last fortnight, 3 weeks, as to who's going to get that turn this time.
Yeah, the rhythm thing's interesting. We've heard him talk about that before. The great thing is they've got such good fixtures. They are going to be probably 2 or 3 nil up a lot of times by the 60th minute.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for him to then manage their minutes with the quality he's bringing on. It's ridiculously easy in some regards. The only thing I would say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think quite often we get embargo quotes from Pep, don't we? Because I think there was
Yeah.
one before the last game week, before the deadline maybe, or after it, where he
Yeah.
basically said Stones was going to start, and we didn't have that
Yeah.
for the original press conference. So for me, I'm waiting until it's about 10:30 tonight. We usually get them. Is that right?
That's the good thing. Is Man City's playing on Saturday, so anything embargoed, I assume, will be coming out at 10:30 tonight. If they were playing on Sunday or Monday, then some of that information would have come out after the deadline, I assume. But yeah, you're right. The John Stones quote came out, I think, probably about 24 hours or 12 hours after the deadline, so you couldn't do anything about it then. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. About 10:30 tonight. I don't know that for certain. I haven't even seen Pep's main press conference yet. But yeah, we'll put anything up that he comes out with on Twitter if there is something after the embargo tonight. Hopefully there is, because obviously I don't know. I don't want to scaremonger. We saw
I
De Bruyne go down
Yeah,
late.
I was going to say
Yeah,
that.
late in the game. I'm sure people are asking that on the chat. He went down late in the match. Pep was interviewed after the game about it and said he was trembling when he saw De Bruyne on the floor, but then saw him get up and make a couple of sprints and thought, oh, well, he's fit. He said at that point he hadn't heard anything from the doctor. He said today, I think all his players have trained well, but he still had to seek out some quotes from the medical department as to who's ready for the match. So not a cast iron guarantee that he is fit, but based on Guardiola's post match quotes in when was it, Wednesday, Tuesday, it did sound relatively positive, with the caveat being that, of course, he's not going to tell us everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, just wait till tonight. You don't have to. If you can stay up that late, that is, of course, because no prices are going to go up until a bit later
Yeah.
than that. So, especially if prices aren't a problem, just wait until tomorrow, I would. What about Newcastle then? Absolutely destroyed by Man City, but of course, who isn't? How are they looking for their next game?
Better, I think. I mentioned this earlier in the week when we did a Gameweek 34 video. I think a lot of these injuries that we had in Newcastle were of the tactical variety. I think Bruce had played a lot of the same players over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I think he was looking for an excuse to bench some of them, especially his key ones like Almiron and St Maximin, who wasn't even in the squad. Lascelles missed out as well. But those three players who I've just mentioned, Bruce said he was hopeful of them being involved. I think they're all going to come to a final training session today, and then he sounded fairly confident on those three. So yeah, if they are fit, they're straight back into the team. You'd think Gale would come back in Manquillo as well. They were benched at Man City. The usual suspects are out. I think it's just Longstaff, Hayden, Clark, Lejeune. Carroll's got a groin problem. And I think that might be it. But yeah, the flags are still remaining on Lascelles, Almiron, and San Maximin because it isn't a definite yes that they are fit from Bruce. But based on his interview this morning, it did sound like they were nearing a return. Emil Kraft was the one I forgot about. He's one of our many right backs. He is a doubt with a knock as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you got St Maximin, probably worth keeping because he plays Ben Foster this week, so that's a guaranteed goal, I would say, given how he's played so far and Watford in general. What about Everton? Then obviously we knew there was a chance that Holgate missed out last game, and he did. Is there any news or updates about him at all, or the rest of Everton, I should say?
Yeah, him and Andre Gomez are going to be assessed in training tomorrow. So Everton's playing on Sunday against Wolves. Andre Gomez has got a knock. He came off against Southampton on Thursday. But Ancelotti said it wasn't a big problem and they're going to assess him. Same with Holgate. He said he thinks he can train tomorrow and then they're going to check him. And apart from that, Everton's got a clean bill of health in terms of new issues. They've got the long-standing ones like Gabamin. But yeah, those are the two, Gomez and Holgate.
Yeah, so nothing too. I guess it's not really a problem if you've got Holgate. He's cheap, so you've probably got plenty of other defenders to choose from as well. Maybe this is probably the worst game I would say Everton have left in terms of a defensive point of view. So maybe not the worst one to bench them. And although not like Wolves have been free scoring recently, but after this it definitely gets a little bit better. I would say. Clean bill of health, unlike Chelsea. So I saw Billy Gilmore was out, right? Is there any other news from them?
Yeah, Gilmore's going to be out for 3 or 4 months, so that'll take him well into the start of next season. Kanté remains out. I think he'll be back before the end of the season, but he's not going to make this one. Tamori as well, he's still out. Kovacic is back, so 1 in, 1 out in the midfield with Gilmore missing out. We could see Jorginho play as the sort of holding midfield player. Not really his style, holding midfielder, but he's a sort of what's the word? Is it register? He plays that sort of deep line playmaker
Yeah, yeah.
role. I probably mixed up my terms there, but yeah, that's
We know
the
what you
position
mean.
yeah. It's been out of favour with Lampard. I think it was very telling that Kanté was replaced by Gilmore against Crystal Palace, but he hasn't got really that many options now because Kovacic isn't really number 6. I guess you could play with two players in the double pivot, but I think by the sounds of his quotes this afternoon on Jorginho, he's quite pleased with his performance off the bench. I'm sure he's going to get a chance now. If not, then he really is out in the cold there. But yeah, Sheffield United away as well. Such a good defensive team. You think Jorginho's skill set would be ideally suited for that. I guess the one issue with Jorginho is, does he now assume Williams' place as being the first choice penalty taker? Because that had been the case for much of this season, but Williams been excellent from the spot since the restart. So yeah, it remains to be seen whether he would come back in and displace him from number 1 penalty taker. I guess you'd think the confidence would be the role would go to the player with the confidence, but you never really know. Jorginho had been number 1 before lockdown, so yeah, something to consider anyway.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because if it was like I don't know. Let's say the Rashford Bruno thing's not a thing, and Bruno is the number one taker. If he was out for like 4 or 5 months, I'd expect him to come straight back in and be the number one. But given that Jorginho's almost not even first choice 11 under Lampard, I don't know if it's that. I don't know if I'd be that confident that he would get them straight back. It's a difficult one. A
Yeah.
lot of people have obviously said that Willian is basically just a set piece merchant at the moment, and if he does lose them, that could hurt. But I fully agree on him probably getting a start because they were pretty poor for a lot of the game against Crystal Palace, and they definitely had a bit more of a foothold in midfield when he came on. So it would make sense to play him. But Kovacic was also really good pre-injury as well, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, the penalty situation, I did think of that as well. So it'd be interesting to see if Willian. I'm sure they'll get another one because otherwise Willian can't get very many points. So we'll see what happens there. What about West Ham? It feels like we talk about Haller every single week. Any kind of news there on lineups or injuries with West Ham?
Moyes was the last one I've heard from prior to this video. It was running late, so I've only just seen the headline news from this. So Anderson remains out. Same with Snodgrass. I think Moyes hopes to have both of those back before the end of the season, but not this week. Allaire made the bench in midweek, so he could be back in the running. I'll see if Moyes has said anything about his match fitness. But even if he did make the starting 11, I don't think that's going to be at the expense of Antonio. I'm pretty sure about that. Unless there's some kind of fitness issue with Antonio, which there has been in the past. Because prior to lockdown, Moyes played both of them up top in kind of a 4-4-2. So I wouldn't be too worried. And I think arguably they look better for having both of them up top. So they've really played well against Southampton. And then they should have gotten something from Arsenal as well in that game just before lockdown. So I don't think it's a bad thing that he's coming back. I just think he'll maybe take the place of someone in midfield rather than Antonio. So but I'll have a look at Moyes' press conference in closer detail. See if I can get any more quotes out of that later today. And then obviously tweet anything that's relevant. Because I know a lot of people will be going for Antonio this week. They've got some really good fixtures in the running. And he's an out-of-position midfielder playing as a centre forward. And as I mentioned earlier today on a different podcast, he's got the best expected goal involvement rate of any Premier League player since we came back in June. So he's top for that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I got him in. They bloody blanked against Burnley. But to be fair, again, not that everything is about stats, but his stats for that game were really good again. It's like 5 shots in the box, 4 chances created. I'd say I feel a bit unlucky that he didn't get any points from that one. So yeah, I fully agree. Even if Haller comes back, he's still going to start. It's just a case of who else drops out and what kind of formation and stuff do they go for, I guess. Probably still stick with like a 4-4-2, but like you said, someone's going to miss out. What about Arsenal? Is Ozil stopped playing Fortnite yet, or is he still missing?
That might be why he has a bad back.
That's what everyone thinks. He's just playing like he's on Twitch too often. That's all. He just does what I do. Apart from I don't have to go and play football for 300 grand a week at the weekend.
Well, he's still being assessed. So this is, I don't know how long this has been going on. This is 3 or 4 game weeks now where Arsenal's team bulletin is Özil is being assessed for back soreness. And he hasn't featured in any of the games in between. So he's still a flag. He's still a 75% flag. No new other injuries to report. Chambers, Mari, Martinelli, Leno out. However, there is another red flag to report for Arsenal, and it's due to suspension. So Nketiah begins a 3-match ban here for the North London derby, which you'd think cements Lacazette's place, but not necessarily. I guess Aubameyang could move centrally, and he could play Saka and Pepe either side. But Arteta has resisted doing that ever since he was appointed. So I think even earlier this week or last week, he mentioned about Aubameyang needing to play left at the moment with the balance of the side the way it is. So could still be Lacazette up top. Didn't have the best of games in midweek, but that surely benefits him with Nketiah being out until I think it'll be Gameweek 37, because one of his match bans will be served in the FA Cup. So he'll be back for the last 2 game weeks.
Yeah, he was on my bench. Just glad he didn't come on. It's interesting about Aubameyang because he's been absolutely fine from the wing position on that left side, scoring goals still. But I just find it really weird that he wouldn't try at least one of the next few games him as a centre forward, because I don't know, it feels like he'd be in there more. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure who else we had stuff from and who you've heard from. So do you want to just go through whatever teams you have left now from here on out? So I don't think there's many left anyway.
No, Villa's one of the ones we didn't hear from. Again, they were in action last night. It was a late kickoff. And I'll see if there's anything coming out from Smith that was embargoed from last night. I don't think there was many injury concerns there. I think Target was still out. I'm not sure if he's going to be back for this one. Engels as well. Bournemouth, that was held this morning. So Adam Smith's definitely going to be out for this. He took a nasty whack in that Spurs game. He was down for 8 minutes, receiving treatment. Don't think it's too bad. He was sitting up and he was conscious afterwards. So, but he won't be involved in this, unsurprisingly. Got to serve a protocol. Steve Cook's still a doubt. He did make the bench against Spurs, but he's still not 100% with that hamstring problem. And they've still got issues like Mepham, Francis, and Simpson as well. Brooks came off against Spurs with what seemed like a calf problem, but Howe said he thinks that is just cramp because he has started like every game since the restart. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Brighton, no new problems. Izquierdo is the only absentee, as he has been for the last 2 years. Alzate, maybe not featuring because I think he's got this long-standing groin problem. Burnley, we've heard from Dyche this afternoon. Nothing new to report. So same people on the sidelines: Cork, me, Barnes, and I think Loughton as well. They did have Wood, Brady, and Goodmanson back in the bench for the last two. Maybe they're getting closer to a start. You think Wood especially. Palace. So Cahill's out. That might be a big blow for them because I think he's been their best centre half this season. So he's going to probably miss the rest of this season. Joins Schlupp and Tompkins on the sidelines for this one. But Martin Kelly's back, so I don't know if he's still knocking around in some people's benches somewhere as a budget third choice defender. Might not go straight back to the team, but for example, they've got Sacco and who's on Dan to cover for Cahill at centre half. But he's back in the reckoning anyway. He should be in the travelling squad for Villa. Let's have a scoot down the list. Newcastle have covered. Norwich, Campbell's back in the reckoning. I think Daniel Farke said that he's probably going to be ready for a substitute appearance and then fully fit for, I think, the Chelsea in Gameweek 36. So he might just be reduced to a cameo off the bench. Still got Leitner, Hanley, Zimmerman, and Byram out. And McLean should be fine. Sheffield United, Wilder's going to give Fleck and McGoldrick the best possible chance to be involved. He said they wouldn't take any risks on those two, but they're back in the reckoning anyway. I think they're both back on the grass and training, so they'll be assessed before Chelsea. Southampton, Gineppo is out, I think. Hassan Hutt, we haven't actually heard from yet. He's got a 4 o'clock press conference, which seems very odd. That's an unusual time for a press conference, but I guess because of the midweek games, there's a bit of a lag. Gineppo had been ruled out with a calf problem against Everton, so I doubt whether he's had a swift turnaround of that. They've also had injury concerns over Boufal, Vestergaard, Teller, and Valerie, so we'll see if any of those are back in the reckoning. We'll hear from him in about an hour, I hope, at the time of filming. Watford, nothing new. So Delafio, Success, and Janmat. The only absentees there, long-term ones. Pearson was saying that this is a good chance for Welbeck to make a sustained run of the team, so he could be back on the left flank for this after his goal. And I think that just leaves Wolves. I don't think we've officially heard from them. I've put Santo down as a 1:15 press conference, but sometimes the quotes are coming out later than that because of embargoes and various other red tape things. So we do know that Neto was a doubt for their previous match, and he missed out. This was a heavy kick, Santo described it as. I think Traore will have to be assessed as well. So he suffered a shoulder dislocation again in a defeat at Sheffield United. I think that's the 4th one this season. So he did play on after that, but he was substituted late in the game. That's not necessarily anything to worry about because he's always coming on and off. He's either on the bench or taken off, with Santo shifting shape during the game. But he will be assessed, I think, this weekend to see if that dislocation is anything more than a nuisance, which it has been, a painful one at that. But yeah, we'll see if anything's come out from Santo. It might have even leaked when I've been on there. So I'll check back now, and I'll round everything up in the article at 5 o'clock, and then anything else beyond that on Twitter as well.
Yeah, make sure you're following for that. I should just do a quick shout out because when you mentioned Welbeck, then it reminded me. Last week I jokingly said, if anyone brings in Welbeck for a punt, let me know. Well, what's his name? Amra Batman _ FPL
Yeah.
did Jimenez to Welbeck last week. So not only did he get Welbeck's goal, but what a goal it was as well. Overhead kick. So fair play for that move. I don't know if there's a weirder punt that we can shout out this week, but yeah, that was a good one. Just really quickly before we go, I have got your team here from last week.
Yep.
Decent enough, 61. Although around 60 points didn't seem to be enough for a lot of people for Green Arrows. I think it was the same for you. Really quickly then, who's your captain this week, and what do you think your transfer will be?
Currently on Fernandez. My transfer, I'm not entirely sure. It could be Son out for Mahrez or another City midfielder, and then beyond that, it'd have to be hit territory, which I'm still averse to doing. But yeah, braver men than me would have taken a -4 and then getting rid of some of that Deadwood, and there's a lot of that in there. I could really do with getting rid of all three forwards. For example, downgrade Rashford to Greenwood, but yeah, there's a few fires to fight really. Son being one of them, and I think I haven't seen a Spurs game last night. I don't want to be on Spurs assets much longer. Um, it's just it's the North London derby, and you think, well, might they be fired up for that? And you think he will start because he's had his benching now in midweek. So we'll have a think about tonight. But I can't do the Jimenez to Vardy move now because I'm priced out. At least not for free. It'll have to be a hit to do that.
Last question.
Yeah.
Even though I just said that was the last one, this is the last one. If you had bought Vardy in for Jimenez, would you have thought about captaining him ahead of Fernandez, or is it just the case now that it's pretty much Fernandez set and forget? He's just too good.
I would have thought about it. I don't know, that game last night's playing on my mind because Spurs were terrible. I mean, they were really bad, but Bournemouth did look better at both ends of the pitch. I wonder if I'm just reading too much into that with regards to the Vardy decision. I'll probably regret it on whenever it is, Saturday, Sunday. I think I probably wouldn't have captained him, and I think that was partly the reason why I didn't bring him in. Because even though I expect Southampton to give United their toughest test yet since the restart, because they've been one of the best teams, Southampton, this summer, you'd still expect Fernandes to be in the points. I don't think they'll roll Southampton over like they have been doing other teams, but it's a home fixture, and it's the last game of the game week as well. There's always something extra special about captaining a player in the final fixture. A weird little sort of superstition, isn't it? Really, that sort of stuff shouldn't enter your thinking, but yeah.
No, I agree. I think Southampton will provide the biggest test for our defence. I actually think it might help us a little bit in attack if they do kind of come forward quite a bit. We'll have to see. I know a lot of people saying Fernandes. I said it myself actually. A little bit lucky maybe in the last game week to get a penalty and then the ball back on the corner. But at the same time, he assisted Martial when he hit the bar. He should have scored from 6 yards from a header, so he could have had more points again. Absolutely insane. So great choice. All right, cool. We will leave it there. Like Neale said, check out the article that's going live on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk about, was it 5 or 5:30?
Should be 5, yeah.
5, yeah. So that's the team news article. The predicted lineups will be on the site as well under the team news section, and obviously anything else will be on FF Scout on Twitter. So make sure to follow us on all those links. Otherwise, I'll say thanks very much, Neale.
Thanks, Andy. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. We'll catch you again next week.